Determined to uncover the truth, Nkem decided to follow Obinna one night. She feigned sleep, her breathing slow and steady as she waited for him to rise. Just as the shadows lightened and the moon hung high in the sky, Obinna slipped out of bed, his movements silent and fluid. Nkem's heart pounded in her chest as she watched him leave, her mind racing with questions. She followed him through the village, her bare feet silent on the dirt paths. The night was eerily quiet, the usual sounds of crickets and owls absent. The air was thick with tension, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Nkem's breath came in shallow gaps as she trailed Obinna to the river, where a thick mist coiled around the trees like a living thing. And then she saw them, figures standing in the dark, their forms shifting like mist. They were tall and slender, their features indistinct, but their presence was undeniable. Obinna stood among them, his eyes no longer warm but distant and hollow. "Nkem," he said, without turning, "you should not have come here." A chilling wind howled through the trees, and before she could react, darkness swallowed her whole. Nkem awoke to find herself in her father's hut, surrounded by the elders of the village. Her head throbbed, and her vision swam as she tried to sit up. Her father's face was lined with worry, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and sorrow. "Nkem," he said, his voice heavy with emotion, "you must listen to me. Obinna is not a man. He is a spirit, a being from the world beyond ours." Nkem's heart sank, her mind reeling from the revelation. "But he loves me," she whispered, her voice trembling. The oldest elder, a man with a long white beard and eyes that seemed to see into the very soul, shook his head. "The spirits do not love as we do," he murmured. "They take what they desire and they do not let go." Nkem's tears flowed freely as the elders explained the truth. Obinna was a spirit prince, a powerful being from the other world, who had been drawn to Nkem's beauty and kindness. He had taken on human form to win her heart, but his true nature could not be hidden forever. The bond they had formed was not one of love, but of possession. The village priestess, a woman with deep knowledge of the spirit world, prepared a ritual to protect Nkem. She drew sacred symbols around her, chanting ancient words that filled the air with a sense of power and reverence. But as the ritual reached its climax, the air grew cold and the shadows in the hut began to shift and write. "It is too late," the priestess said, her voice filled with sorrow. "The bond has already formed. No walls, no doors can keep him away." Nkem's heart ached as she realized the truth. She was bound to Obinna, not just in this world, but in the next, and there was no escape. Determined to break the bond, Nkem sought the oracle of the hills, an ancient seer who knew the ways of the spirits. The journey was long and difficult, taking her through the dense forests and across treacherous rivers, but Nkem's resolve never wavered. She had to free herself from Obinna's grasp, no matter the cost. The oracle was an old woman, her face lined with age and wisdom. She listened to Nkem's tale with a solemn expression, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and understanding. "The spirit prince stole your soul the moment you gave him your love," the oracle said. Her voice was soft but firm. "To break the bond, you must make him willingly release you, otherwise you will forever be his." Nkem's heart sank at the oracle's words. How could she convince Obinna to let her go when he had gone to such lengths to possess her? But she had no other choice. Armed with this knowledge, she returned to the village, her mind racing with plans and possibilities. That night, she called for Obinna. He appeared, his form shifting between man and shadow, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and longing. "You belong to me," he said softly. his voice a whisper in the darkness. Tears streamed down Nkem's face as she looked into his eyes. "If you love me, let me go." For the first time, Obinna paused. His form flickered, uncertain, as if the very fabric of his being was being torn apart by her words. The full moon hung high in the sky as Nkem stood by the river waiting. She knew he would come. The air was thick with tension, the night silent except for the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. Obinna emerged from the shadows, his form shifting and flickering like a candle in the breeze. His eyes, once filled with warmth, were now dark and sorrowful. "Come with me," he said, his voice a plea. "Be my queen in the land beyond. We can be together forever." Nkem's heart ached at his words, but she stood firm. "I cannot," she said, her voice steady, despite the tears in her eyes. "I belong to this world, to my people. I cannot leave them behind." Obinna's form wavered, his expression one of pain and confusion. "But you love me," he said, his voice breaking. "How can you turn away from that?" "I do love you," Nkem whispered, her voice filled with sorrow. "But love should not mean captivity. If you truly love me, you will let me go." For a long moment, there was silence. The air around them crackled with unseen energy, the bond between them straining under the weight of Nkem's words. And then, with a sigh that seemed to come from the depths of his soul, Obinna nodded. "If love means letting go," he said, his voice barely audible, "then I release you." A force ripped through the air, severing the invisible bond between them. The wind howled, the river roared, and Obinna's form began to fade into the mist. His eyes, once filled with longing, held only sorrow as he whispered his final words. "Goodbye, my love." Nkem returned to the village, her heart heavy, but her spirit free. She lived to tell her tale, warning others of the dangers of love without understanding. The villagers listened with rapt attention, their eyes wide with awe and fear. The moral of this story was clear. Love without understanding is dangerous. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed, and the spirits, though they may seem alluring, are not to be trifled with. To this day, the villagers say that on certain nights, if you stand by the river and listen closely, you can still hear Obinna calling in Nkem's name, a haunting reminder of the love that defied reason.